Tomorrow morning, but joining me now, three of the best MSNBC political analysts: Air America's Rachel Maddow, Newsweek's Jonathan Alter, and Pat Buchanan. All right, Rachel, I mean, the question was, why have you been unable to win the big states? And he's saying, look, that's Clinton's spin. Is it Clinton's spin?
Well, honestly, what we've seen in the big states is big voter turnout, big Democratic voter registration, and voters having a hard time deciding between the two candidates, or in some cases deciding they'd rather have Senator Clinton than Senator Obama. That doesn't say that Obama couldn't win those in the general. I think on the bare facts here, he's right.
Pat, is he glossing over an issue here?
I think he's glossing over a bit. He will win California and New York, but there's a real question. If he can't beat Hillary Clinton when he's the front runner and outspent her 2-1, he can't win Pennsylvania. Can he take it away from John McCain? Can he win Michigan? Can he win Ohio when he lost that to Hillary Clinton? I think there's some doubts raised in the minds of superdelegates and Democrats everywhere, but I agree with Barack Obama. He's still the front runner even if he loses tomorrow.
Jonathan?
Yeah, you know, he is having trouble closing the sale. But that doesn't necessarily mean that he's a weak candidate.
But why is he, Jonathan? Why? I mean, and we'll talk about this later with Chris Matthews, but why is it that when it seems pretty clear that the candidate's going to be Barack Obama, you've got this big state, Pennsylvania, which seems to be saying we're still going to go for Hillary Clinton?
Because in terms of the demographics, Dan, it's just tailor-made for Hillary Clinton. It's the second oldest state in the country, and that's her demographic, that over 50 crowd. Those are her voters. It's also only about 15% African American, which is on the low side in Democratic primaries. It has a lot of, in terms of cultural issues, those voters tend to favor Hillary. So if you went into a laboratory and tried to design almost the perfect Hillary Clinton state, where, by the way, her father comes from, you would come up with Pennsylvania.
And I got to tell you, it seems Barack Obama almost conceding there, I mean, that he expects to lose, but they both want to set the expectations as low as possible. All right, Hillary Clinton's comment. This, again, to Ann Curry only hours ago, I found this to be fascinating, that once again, it sure sounds like she's suggesting she's being treated differently because she's a woman.
It is like Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire. You know, I have to do everything Fred does, only backwards and in high heels. The most pervasive form of discrimination in the world, no matter what the ethnicity, the race, the religion of the people who live in any society, is discrimination against women. That is a fact.
As the sole woman on the panel, Rachel, I must begin with you.
Allow me to be the white lady in the room here. Listen, I think that Barack Obama is going to have voters vote against him because of his race. And John McCain is going to have voters vote against him because of his age. And Hillary Clinton is going to have voters vote against her because of her gender. That is absolutely true.
Fair comment for Clinton to make?
It is not necessarily a fair comment to make, because I don't think that is the generic dynamic that explains where she is in the race. I think it is one thing among many, and I'm certainly will tell you that sexism is real, and you see it certainly in the types of criticism that are leveled against her that a male candidate wouldn't get, but it is not the defining feature of her candidacy.
Pat, fair for us to have a lower, on the screen there, Clinton plays the gender card? Sure sounded like it to me.
I think it is. Look, Hillary Clinton may lose some votes because she's a woman, but she will gain far more. It was because she was a sister that she won New Hampshire and came roaring back when the ladies came out for her. And the same is true of Barack Obama. He's going to roll through Philadelphia and carry 85 or 90% of the African-American vote because he's black. And he's going to lose some votes in outstate because he's black. So look, there are pros and cons and all through politics of why did Romney do well in Utah and so badly in the Deep South?
Jonathan,
religion.
Jonathan, you troubled by this comment?
Here's the problem for Hillary. It's perfectly fine for her to say all this. What she says about women globally is absolutely true. The problem is sisterhood doesn't work. It got her over the finish line barely in New Hampshire, but when they designed this campaign, they really thought that women would vote for Hillary in such disproportionate numbers that they couldn't be stopped for the nomination. And that just has not turned out to be the case. And in fact, it has never been the case in state races either. Women do not vote for women just because somebody's a woman. They make a more complex
They do it
judgment.
marginally, but not massively.
Sister Rachel. I love this. A sister. I mean, sister.
I've got a lot of aunts who are nuns, so
yeah. It's a little weird. I'm just saying, but Sister Rachel. I mean, are you bothered by this? I mean, does it kind of frustrate you?
Does it bother me to hear Hillary Clinton
Yes.
making the argument?
Yes, to her saying that I have to do everything that much better, that I have the deck stacked against me.
No. In general, that does not bother me, but I'll tell you why. It's because to be a pioneer, to be first at something, you do have to be better than everybody who is not of that pioneer status.
We've got 2 pioneers, though.
That same thing.
I mean,
we've got 3 pioneers.
Yeah.
I mean, the age thing is not a joke. It's real, and it is a real prejudice that McCain is going to be up against. It's a lot harder to argue against than the gender and the race.
I got to play this ad that Clinton has just put out, which, you know, we've talked about these fear issues coming up before. This, I think, is worse than anything that we've seen so far. Here it is.
It's the toughest job in the world. You need to be ready for anything, especially now with 2 wars, oil prices skyrocketing, and an economy in crisis. Harry Truman said it best: if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. Who do you think has what it takes?
I'm Hillary Clinton, and I approve this message.
Pat Buchanan, explain to me, I wasn't really bothered by that previous ad about the 3 a.m., who's going to be able to answer the call. There's something about this one with the images, the visual images, that bothers me more.
Well, I'm not bothered by it. What she's saying is, this is a dangerous world. We live in dangerous times, and terrible things can happen. And in effect, I'm an experienced hand, and I know what I'm doing, and I've been there. And by the way, this other fella hasn't been there. I think it's a tough ad.
Jonathan?
I've got no problem with it. It's not the Daisy Girl.
I'm totally with Pat. I thought this ad was totally fair game. I think it's a good way for her to close. She's going back to her strength, which is experience, that you can trust her in a crisis because she's already been in the White House. All of those familiar themes. They haven't won the nomination for her, but as they say in Chicago politics, you dance with the one who brung you.
Barack Obama said it's ironic that she would borrow the president's tactics in her own campaign and invoke bin Laden to score political points.
The difference here is what Pat and Jonathan are reading into this ad is that she's making a case, making an argument about her own experience and against Barack Obama's experience. She's not actually making those. What she's doing is saying, be afraid of the stock market crash and Pearl Harbor and the Cuban Missile Crisis and gas rationing and 9/11, and when you feel that fear, think of me. There's no actual argument against anybody or for anybody. It's just think of bad things, think of me.
I think that's, I think that's okay. What bothers me is the visual aspect of it. I mean, to me, there's a difference when you start showing those pictures that says, oh.
But that's what I'm saying, though. There's no argument. She's just trying to evoke the feeling of fear and the feeling of actual and loathing and upset about all of those things.
She's
saying when you feel afraid, think of me. That's not what I'm looking for Democratic leadership.
If you live in a dangerous and threatening world, and we do, I'm your girl. What is wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with it.
She's saying, when you feel afraid, think of me. That's George W. Bush. That ought not be a Democrat.
Well, if it works for Bush, why can't it work for Hillary?
Because it doesn't work.
Republicans and Democrats are different.
The main thing is it doesn't work. That's what we've learned already through all these primaries. That's why we're here. That's why the front runner has stumbled. Because even though it's her best bet, since that's what her whole campaign was about, what we've learned this year is that people do tend to vote their hopes more than their fears.
Hillary Clinton talked about this on Countdown in the last hour.
That ad is about leadership, and I obviously believe I do have the leadership experience and qualities to become the president and the commander-in-chief. Nothing at all that is in any way inappropriate in saying, look, presidents face the unexpected all the time.
Yeah. I mean, Jonathan, nothing inappropriate. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, as I said, I don't think there's anything inappropriate with the ad. All I'm saying is, as Bill Clinton has been saying for many years, in the end, people vote about the future. That ad was all about the past. And they do tend to vote their hopes over their fears, unless you're in a kind of a 9/11 situation.
I think when you scare people, they tend to vote Republican, and that's why this is a John McCain ad in terms of its effect more than it is a Republican
Pat, real final,
more than it is a
wrap it up real quick.
I think it says you can trust me in grave times, and I don't think you can trust that other fella, can you?
All right. Jonathan, Rachel, and Pat, thanks.